So at 5:32, we will call this meeting of the Hotel Occupancy Tax Committee together. And the first thing I want to bring to your attention is the attachments that Geo just distributed. I spoke to CJ Aragon of the Sul Ross Rodeo, and I told him at first thought, our policy is we cannot receive the attachments after the deadline. But he told me that that he did turn in the application early, and the person at the front desk looked at it and told him it was all theirs. And so that was inaccurate, but it didn't come to me. And so there was also a question of whether everything he actually turned in did get to us. So between those two things, I spoke to Megan, and she said it would be at the committee's discretion. So what I will recommend is that one of you make a motion, if you think, as I do, that that's sufficient question to let him in. So
I'll make the motion.
that we would
Keep it.
consider it. Okay, so we have a motion.
Absolutely, yeah. Second.
Lots of
First rodeo.
seconds. Right. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to allow these required attachments and accept this application for review. So is there any other discussion on that question? And if not, then everyone in agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, John. Then the first thing I think we should do is to score his two, because we weren't able to last time. And so I'm gonna let you look at those and look at the application while I log into Zoom so we can pull up that.
You have the score sheet to screen share?
I will as soon as I get logged in, get Zoom.
Sorry. I didn't get those last ones, but when your computer went down.
Yeah. It was in the finished score sheet was in the packet. There's the link. No?
I got it.
Yeah, there's only like 600 pages, so.
207 before all the additions, so. No, 270. What's wrong? I'll take it out.
Get a window with that spreadsheet.
That's your call.
I took your table, if you want your table. Yeah. Okay. I just like to have room. for-
Gio, could you please make me host or whatever so I can
Yes.
share and close it out? Thanks.
Absolutely.
Documents goes with the
That's a great question.
spring and fall jackpots.
The
each-
first one,
Just the first.
the first one is a letter and then paper that goes with that one.
Yeah, we have yeah, the first two are for that. We have a scheduled event that just be set in the summer, and then this the marketing plan. So those
The
are the,
application is in our
it is,
packet from
yes.
last week.
Yes.
And in the one from this week too.
Okay,
There's a lot of kids in there, apparently. I could have brought mine, just throw them in there.
Yeah, there you go. Anyways,
Come back later.
Okay, so the score sheet is now up on the Zoom and on the big screens. So then, yeah, phone. My own purposes. So the jackpots are new summer events. And they are asking for much less than the ordinary one. So they have 4 dates in the fall and 4 in the spring. That's actually what he says on his application. about 60 contestants per event. So then the question for you guys, the first question is a 1 to 10 score on how you feel the impact the event would have on hotel stays. Given that they have 8 events
On the jackpot.
on the jackpot first, yeah.
Don't know.
So it's estimated
We
that
don't.
1 out of 3 stays overnight.
In their trailer.
And then for the actual rodeo, he did say that a large portion stayed in their trailers.
Yes, that is
But
true.
If we're just looking at the jackpots for now, 1 out of 3.
And he says here that each of the 8 events will draw about between 200 to 400 out of town. The
Of
bottom of
people.
the new letter. The bottom of that.
I thought he would say it's 60.
Yeah,
Contestants, not counting people who
Okay.
come to watch. I would
Yeah.
say that's accurate.
Attendees, family members, etc.
Will those 200 to 300 people stay overnight?
He estimates between 200 and 400 for each of the events. Now, that may be optimistic, but that's his estimate. Heather feels like it, It's reasonable.
You got 50 people that stay overnight contestant wise and they have, families and things. I think it's.
But
Yeah.
he's known for putting on good events, so he's gonna have
certainly.
people show up for it.
but just to get some scores going, John, do you want to give a 1 to 10 of impact on hotel stays? Was that a 4?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Susie, what about you?
I'll give it a 7.
A 7? Okay. Carrie?
7 for me.
7?
Same.
7? Joanna?
6, please.
6, okay. 4. Thank you very much. Gives them a 6. And so next is professionalism and sound plan in the application. So Heidi, what do you think?
I'll go 8.
Okay, Joanna?
This is always, are always good 9.
9, okay.
Same
9. Kirsten?
8.
Susie?
10.
10. And John, what do you think?
8.
Thank you.
So these are 14 and under, so the parents are probably gonna come.
More parents would come, yeah. Okay, capacity to put on an event. John, what do you think? CJ?
They
Does it
certainly got all the capacity in the world, 9.
Okay. Susie?
9.
9?
10.
10, 7?
10.
10 and 8. Thank you. This is the most efficient scoring yet. Diversity of revenues.
Looking for that.
Yeah, let's see if he has that percentage in the application.
30%, I think, but I'm trying to look and see where they
So we have some national and local sponsors and
attach flyers.
oh, it
from
says
this year.
outside, he's only asking for 5,000, so he's obviously expecting a lot of sponsors from the other direction.
Yeah, and he says 30% of the total event costs is what's represented by our HOT grant. So Heidi, what?
7.
7, Joanna?
I'll give him an 8.
Okay, 7. 7.
7.
And John?
7.
7. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, yeah. Agree. Would anyone like to give newness or innovation extra credit?
I'll give 5 on it.
5 on newness from Joanna,
Yeah, me too.
another 5? Anybody else?
I like 10 on newness because jackets are really successful in other places.
Okay,
It's a really good way to expand this current. rates.
anybody else want to give points for either? 5 for newness?
Have they ever had a youth?
I
Have
don't
they ever
think
had
so,
youth
so there's
groups?
some innovation there
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, go with 5 for innovation.
Okay. That gives them 4.17 for newness and 0.83 for innovation. So then we can move on to the 81st annual Sol Ross Rodeo and the impact on hotel stays. Heidi, what do you estimate for that? A five? Joanna?
I'd say six.
Six. Evan, what do you think?
Does it say in his document how, have they been able to track the actual hotels that have, stays that have them coming in?
I don't think we've seen that number. Now, I have heard, and it seems accurate, that a lot of the college rodeo kids are staying in their trailers on the site. So the hotels that we're gonna get are gonna be attendees to watch and family members. But exactly how many of those, I don't. We know that it's been the biggest college rodeo ever each year, but then they divided it because it was getting too big to be manageable.
Wasn't there something last year, the Holiday Inn was saying that he picked up a lot of people? Seems like I recall that from last year. when we spoke about it.
Yeah, and you're right over
I
there.
would think so, so it affects him apparently.
Yeah,
It does say that all the rooms that he's reserved for it,
Are always taken.
and it's
Yeah.
at all the hotels.
it's the 1 to 10 estimated impact on hotel stays.
They
Yeah,
had to split it because there was too many entries, and we could not get them in the required time. We had to
Yeah.
start Slack at a certain time on Thursday and have it done by a certain time on Saturday. They were running barrels till like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Seven.
okay, thank you. Kirsten?
Eight.
Eight, and eight, and John, what do you think?
Eight.
Eight, thank you. Seven, professionalism and sound plan, John?
8,
Eight, thank you. Susie? Eight. 10. Evan, what do you think? 9. Joanna? Thank you. Heidi? 3, capacity to put on the event. Heidi? 10. Joanna? 10. 10. 10. John?
10,
Thank you. Diversity of revenue. See that on his application, that number,
It's the same as the other one.
okay?
And then he's got a huge list of donors
Oh, yeah.
and for me.
Okay. John, what do you say for diversity of revenues for the rodeo?
6,
6. 10, Kirsten, Susie?
6.
6. Evan?
7.
7. Joanna?
9.
9. 7. Five. And does anyone want to give newness or innovation points to the rodeo? Okay. So then we are actually done scoring. So I'm going to. Oh. I'm admitting Rob to the. Hello, Rob, welcome to the meeting. Sorry to keep you waiting. Let's see now, I've got another tab here, we've got. Recommendation worksheet, so the now we must determine how much you want to recommend that the council award for each of these applications.
That's a fun.
And yes, it's always fun, and the key numbers are usually. What's the total requested and what's the total that we can award? And
Take the tab out one off to start.
yes, we should.
Do we not?
That dollar amount.
That out.
But the dollar amount's still in there. So the
9,400?
no,
On
not
page-
lost.
that's right, this is
Not that.
confusing me with the wrong numbers on my. Okay, so but we do have $680,400 requested and 400,000 that we can award. So let's take out because it, as Heather says correctly, it was not eligible for a couple different reasons.
Is that usually about the breakdown of like the percentage over the amount that we have to give?
I think it averages out over the last 3 years, but
We had
Uh,
a really high one a couple years.
2 years
Okay.
ago, it was 1 million that was asked for,
Okay.
that we had to cut down to, and then last year was 526, so we're in between.
The rating of the categories,
Mhm.
the promotion of the arts. Since we have $400,000, we can only do $60,000 there, right?
It's actually 15% of the total collected, so it's a little more than that, and I'll tell you exactly
I
what it
wondered
is.
that too.
It is, we're estimating that what we could award tonight is 78,750, and we have 151,000 requested. So that, now let's see,
Historical and art.
historical also has a cap, but the requests do not exceed what we could legally award.
And do we want to give it all away or do we leave some for?
The city budgets some, like I see at the bottom, we've got $5,000 for city music, which would be various events where we'll hire a local band to do something. And then $10,000 we appropriate for the film rebate program in case we get a production that we can use that for. So that takes 15,000 out and sets it aside, and the remainder is that 78,750 that we have available for grants. And so there's no, especially since we have requests so far above it, there's no reason not to award the total that you can. But it would seem a useful starting point to maybe look at promotional arts first, since we know we can't go over the 78,750. And that's where your scoring might come in handy, which would be in the new, I hope it's up front.
We just.
Yeah, it's way back. Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, the back of the first page.
We could knock them all off by like 40%.
We could, but I personally wouldn't recommend that because you really want to, for starters, I would weight that cut based on the performance of the event. So if there's some that are just we know they're going to bring in hotel stays, it's a strategic use of the fund, then everybody might get a cut, but those events might get less of one.
I think if there's something under 90, I should award it fully and just. Count that out immediately.
Like Viva Big Band.
Like that's something that's super successful, so why would you make?
Oh, maybe I'm looking at the wrong
Like,
stat.
And they ask for like
No,
I just think that like if they are able to score that high, they should get automatically like get something. But that's
So
fine.
what Viva Big
we
Band
have
is
one of
scored
those?
the highest next.
in the first,
Two things that undoubtedly the hotel.
In
there
today's,
should have been not in today's,
not in today's?
not in today's.
Last week's.
That would be helpful though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You have that
Yes.
from last
Here's the
time,
right-
right?
This one, I think I printed this.
This
Do I
one?
need to make
Is it this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Wait, no,
No.
that's somebody's
That's
budget.
somebody else's.
Oh,
That's-
okay.
Right here. Okay, I thought this was last year's.
No, it's the same one. So this is what we're talking about, like, you can go ahead and take out catalogs, and this is what you have for art.
Oh.
We have for art.
Okay.
So what one might do is, yeah, it's to look at, are there any of these events that you consider top performers that you want to give more consideration to than others, that sort of thing.
Viva
But-
Big Band and Heartwalk,
Mm-hmm.
by all means. Cause they scored highest for all of us anyway, and those, I would, right off the top of my head, say, they,
Well, it's Cowboy.
well, yeah, where'd he go?
They're line 25 towards the bottom.
The mineral show, the German mineral show. Museum. I don't know, it should have scored, it scored higher on mine,
They did on mine too.
it didn't make sense to me.
Middle.
Cowboy portrait.
This one, it is, it's like two on the back side, a few pages. in. That's the new stuff. Once you get past the new stuff. There you go. It's like this back of the section.
But if you took like these three,
Back of that.
and then
That's the score.
34.
We got everything we want, that'd be $60,000 right on top.
Very true. So yeah, it seems clear. Everybody needs to get less than they ask for, but by how much?
But you could appropriate the rest of it across the board on the rest of them.
When I was looking at it, what's most beneficial for Alpine,
Mm-hmm.
that advertising column is the most important column to me.
Yes.
And so that's where I wanted to try to fund as much as possible personally.
And we have
Because of our requirement, we automatically do.
and we have this, but yes, that's a sound reasoning for sure.
The civic center and the transportation columns, because there was so little money involved there, I kind of just scratched them. So that we can concentrate on the meat
Yeah.
where they need to be. Don't know if that's faulty thinking, but that was my.
I don't either. But that's one suggestion.
That just helps your overall though, it doesn't do
Yeah.
anything to help push up your arts column.
We could get that one work, we could back into the other. Here to the west is one that I would say. Cut way back because of our conversation. That's- You get rid.
Pros and cons to it. If we cut them back, they won't have a chance to try to do more. To grow it. But yeah, it's like,
You don't want to.
it's a double-edged sword.
But you, Heather, you were saying they couldn't find rooms during the last one, but part of it, a lot of it had to
It
do
was
with
with the
military
other stuff
stuff
going on.
and stuff, other stuff going on too.
Well,
They
one
weren't that crowded.
you might look at, Magical Warehouse is one that did a great job.
I agree with that. one. That was
Getting
one that
more
caught my
money
surprise.
will help them put on a better event. Now, they got 6 last year, and so you could say 10 gets them
I would
closer.
go there. I would be agreeable to
So they're
that.
asking for 20.
They're asking for 20.
Well, give them 10. They didn't go get more than they got last year.
And who was this?
That's the Magic
Like-
Warehouse, the Comic
Oh,
Con.
yeah. So you can also.
They did a
look
good
at
job.
They
their
did a really
budgets
good
and
job.
See how much they have. Are they asking for all they need in advertising? Cause you could give them less in promotion of arts and more in
Yeah.
advertising. Help their own budgets.
Or you could say, double what they had last year, and they're at 12, and you're still saving 8.
Well, last year they got 6 and they
They-
did pretty well with their advertising on getting people here.
They
They had
did.
a lot of people here, but then we just need to make sure that they get the promotion of
Exactly.
the arts for the people, because that's their draw. 'Cause They
That's
know how to
exactly
put
right.
it in their advertising from last year. So I say give them more on even if it's 10,000, but we can still give them advertising, they're still gonna come
Yeah.
out probably 3 times what they got last year.
Yeah, I would strongly advocate for more than last year. The only question is where do you want to make that line?
So last year they got 6,000 total.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For,
And they did a
For arts,
fabulous
yeah.
job on 6,000.
no, you're right. I
No,
think
it
they
was
maybe
total
only
between
had,
advertising and.
wow, so there was even
Yeah.
less. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not that much for arts.
I-
We didn't give them that much to bring in. people.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and
It
look.
was only.
Well, it says right here, right?
Yeah.
That's the total, but you're right. There's a total.
Oh,
I
I
was
see what
thinking
you're
it was
saying.
all arts, but it wasn't. It was advertising.
Mhm.
So even if we did come down half on that, it's still
It would be
a
more
lot
than
more than
double.
last year.
It would-
Oh, heck
Yeah,
they're
than we
gonna
gave
get
them
it.
last year.
Probably think
So,
Christmas just like.
If it's okay with you all, at least temporarily, I'll put that at 10.
I agree with that.
Okay.
The majority of the participants that come to that event they're like already involved in Comic-Con style activities, right?
Yeah, they're engaged in the fandoms for sure. They're highly
So it's
energized
like a
audience.
pretty defined niche, not hard to contact
Exactly.
about events, and so therefore it shouldn't cost that much money to send out information to this niche of people.
Yeah, they can't advertise efficiently, but but the arts is the most important to
It's their
them.
headers that they pay to get
Exactly.
here is what brings it in, because
It's-
they, like you said, they've got their list.
Right.
They just gotta have the money to get,
The big afternoons.
yeah.
Yeah, because that's what's gonna be the draw.
Can you, off the top of your head, remember what in, the Gem and Mineral Show, they're asking for 3,000 for promotion of the arts? What part of their stuff is arts?
To do to, well, Jim and Mineral, all
Yeah.
the jewelry and everything. There was like somebody who did jewelry making for kids and they're gonna do more of that. So
And
that's
she's doing,
considered
she's
arts.
having, she's gonna have crafts for kids and things like that, teaching them.
That's definitely considered.
Does that help bring in hotel guests?
We'll bring more. If you're having kids, if you're gonna want more of a place for them to
Okay,
stay.
so it says, yeah, they're gonna enhance their educational programming, including hands-on demonstrations and children's learning activities. That is what they're asking for their arts.
She's really wanting to grow that.
Chris,
Yes. Oh, sorry about that.
Then,
Not a skilled host, as you can see.
Borderlands Research Institute, what were they doing that's considered promotion? of the
Ah,
arts?
the hope there is to have a filmmaker come and do a presentation on his
Wildlife
work, a
film.
wildlife filmmaker. And so that was lodging and travel to get him here as an enticement.
And then what is, I'm sorry, I know I could look this up in my packet, but you're so effective at finding that. For the 4th of July, what was that arts piece?
Oh,
That's
music.
Yeah.
It's totally music.
And so I would suggest taking the Borderlands Research Institute to 500 instead of 15, because one, we don't have confirmation that we can get that guy, even that he could come, that his schedule will work. But having something to put on the table to help him get here, 500 would be more than nothing, and so we'll make that change.
The 4th of July, is that gonna be local bands?
It is local bands, and I think that after having seen this go, I think this year we have $2,000 to do it. And that's not a terrible amount. I mean,
You're right. We're actually right now, we're estimating being able to do it for less than that.
so,
We could go down to 2 realistically.
yeah,
without
I think we
trouble.
should.
Maybe go like 18.
If we did it similarly, probably. But what do you?
I am planning to totally take out the 3,000 for historic. Could I borrow you for another 200 for?
Yes.
Okay,
Let's
so,
make a deal.
so then I'll put that, if everyone's amenable, I'll put Alpine Community Projects to 2,000 for arts and 0 for historic, is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
So I looked at the Viva budget and their total advertising budget is 20,000 and they're asking us for 19. So they're not someplace where we could give them more in advertising and less in music. He
Yeah.
already is,
He's the
he knows
situation,
how to do that.
exactly,
Yeah.
and
He
he's
knows how
got
to play the game.
his previous visitor
Yeah.
list that he works real hard and.
I know. That's
Yeah,
why I was
he's
just looking
very
at his budget
efficient.
though to see if there was a way to
Mhm.
shift. But I can look at Artbox and see if that would be a possibility. Because if you can shift the money into advertising, it's easier to give to, then you can cut it from art.
Rather than cutting anything from artwork, I'd rather cut it from Spirits of the West.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, it's just, it's, you know, the same players, so we can see if both their budgets have that.
And
what the final grant totals was, so I can hop back and forth there.
So how much should they ask for in advertising for, artwork
This year or last year?
this year?
This year, Art Walk asked for 25 and 20 for arts.
So,
And last year, 25, and they got 18 for arts last year. And Spirits got 8 last year for arts.
Did we amend?
We did. Art Walk underspent their music a little bit, and we actually moved it to Spirits. Some of that award. So instead of that 8, they had 11 last year that they actually used for Spirits. And it was, I think they went 15 last year.
they used pretty much a lot of local bands last year for artwork.
They did. And so that's why it was under, but they will, like all of these, if they get a name that's recognizable to the audience, they'll get a better draw. And that requires the money.
They're asking us for their entire advertising budget.
Is this art walk you're talking about?
Mhm.
What I was afraid of.
The things they want to pay for comes to 25,650. They're asking for 25 of it.
Yeah, Our Lady of Peace is a similar situation that the act that they're trying to bring in, which would be the draw that would sell those tickets, is expensive. Now with Fiesta 1888, I know that Marianne and Aaliyah did a lot of fundraising enchiladas and burritos, and they worked really, really hard to
raise that
match
money.
that fund. Yeah, I don't know.
With the Lady of the Peace one, because this has a capacity, it can only hold so much.
I know.
They really needed to do a higher ticket price than what they've got on here.
Yeah, I think
Because they're gonna bring in a name like
they're
that
gonna
to
hit a
charge
wall.
$50 and you can only generate 25,000 off of a room this size.
They're
like-
defeating their purpose.
Exactly.
Or stagger their, where they have like gold attendees, silver attendees, you know what I'm talking about, instead of just.
They'll sell
flat
tables, I'm
50.
sure, but.
Yeah, but I mean.
It's just that they're capped at how much they can make no matter what, because the civic center's only so big. It's not like Fiesta 1888
Well,
where we could have.
You're gonna wanna
50,000
get
people
some
on the
big
street.
donors in there in order to raise the money, if that's what you're planning on spending, but you gotta. You're not gonna get off $50 tickets, most of the time.
That's why they want us to fund music.
I know.
Well, and one thing we could also consider for the Gem and Mineral Club, since that's an add-on, you might consider maybe giving them 1,500, which gives them more than they've ever had, but there's not relying on a traveling band that has
You're
a.
talking about promotion.
Yeah, I'm talking promotion of the arts for Gem and Mineral.
Okay.
To reduce the guitar thing too.
Yeah.
Well, the guitar thing was actually a pretty decent draw, and the person they have is pretty well known.
But look at where the money is being spent on that. The presenter is really high. The dollar amount for the presenter is very high.
Is it? I didn't know.
So like that 4,000 is all going to the guitarist.
Right.
You can still get the guitarist for 2,000 according to their budget.
So let's do 2,000.
I'm just saying. Cutthroat.
Does everyone agree with that?
Yeah. I
Mhm.
agree. And also with the gem and mineral thing, I think that should go to 1,500.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
I'd like to see the gem and mineral stay at least at 2,000, because what she's really trying to do is develop a program for children to get them interested in what's going on going forward. And it's one of the few on here that is catering to children. So I would like to see them stay up there. If we-
If I could interrupt,
Yes,
does
please.
catering to the children put heads in beds?
Yeah,
Well,
parents
parents
bring
have to
their
bring them.
parents.
Well, I understand that, but are they local parents?
It seems like it would be local parents. to me.
like it would be for local parents.
Yeah,
I
So-
can see though that if you were a person who liked to go to these kind of things, but you couldn't usually take your kids because there weren't kid
Enough activities,
activities, that
correct.
it would, I don't see
And
why
if
it
it's
wouldn't allow
promoted.
them.
Vendors who may show up for
Yeah.
it because they could bring their children, because their children would have activities.
Yeah.
And if they promote
Could
it
be
to families,
Yeah,
families
exactly.
do travel to Alpine. Certainly a few years ago, that was one of our biggest visitor profiles
But
was.
she didn't present
yeah.
a promotional plan to do that.
That's true.
It was
The
written
German
into
Mineral
her, it
Show
was
is
written into
when?
her,
That is
But the-
in
it's
April.
written
It's
into
for the
her.
third weekend of
Just
April.
the
It'll fall the
idea
same
that
weekend
it's
as
not
Dark
like the
Skies
actual, like,
this year.
Did you
plan.
read
It'll be the
that?
same weekend as
It's
our Dark
written in
Skies
there.
Festival.
She has it written in there.
So Dark
It's not
Skies,
Does it
advertising
bring wanting
and
to
the
put
children.
on?
Yeah, not a ton because it's late. You can't have a star party until late, but the stuff at the visitor center during the day had 300 people at it this year.
Out of town?
Not all.
No.
Is in conjunction with the farmer's
To
market.
me, this goes hand in hand with what, like,
Mhm.
dark skies and all that stuff, and you're trying to get people to come out here for natural resources at Big Bend. And why wouldn't you put more money into gym and minerals? Because that's what Big Bend is.
Mhm.
And they bring their kids out here to hunt. And that's part of it. So I just feel like why would we not cater to the educational end of it for the kids?
Cause we gotta get it down to 78, 70.
Well, I see others that aren't, that I would rather take.
We're
it
just
down
not there
to.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just not
Yeah.
there.
Well, don't.
And so for the moment, I've got it at
Apply for
2.
2,000
At
for
the
her.
moment, I've got it at 2 and we'll see
Thank you.
what's required.
I find somebody I like better than I'll.
What did we get, the guitar thing to?
To 2,000.
Two. And two for, the gem and mineral?
Mm-hmm.
So we've taken off.
What's your total, Chris?
Right now, we're at 136 even.
Wait, how's?
How is that? I had it
Wait,
at
what do you
131 to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at 150. when
Yeah,
things
we were
started.
at
100,534.
Oh, you know what? Did you add in the Soul Ross stuff and we didn't? It's on the sheet.
If they don't have
They don't have any
Don't
arts.
ask for promotion of the arts.
Gosh, now I gotta.
What about cow dog? Cow dog is one thing.
It was at 134 and then Cowdog took off 3,000,
Yeah.
so I had it starting at 131.
Now I'm
But
real
that was
confused,
before
but I'm
it
so
been sold
scared to
once.
undo.
Right.
Let's go down your column, Chris.
Okay, so
Yeah, let's do it and compare. Hang on.
2,000 for the gem and mineral show.
No, they
So
don't
the
have
first
it.
thing is.
First thing's
yeah,
Schwallen, Gem and Minerals 2,
yeah,
Guitar and the Big Ben's 2,
Two.
Viva Big Ben 15, Our Lady of Peace 15.
But I think we need to whittle that down.
But that's what it is right now.
Right.
Magical Warehouse 10,
10.
yeah.
Borderlands Research 500, Bluegrass 15, Alpine.
Wait, Borderlands oh, y'all took that to 500?
Yeah, I took it down to
Sorry.
500.
Sorry.
Big Ben Bluegrass 15,
Mhm,
Alpine Community Projects 2,
mhm,
Art Walk 20,
mhm,
Spirits 14.5,
mhm,
Lone Star 20,
mhm.
and Theater the Big Ben 20.
Oh, I don't,
The theater
We
Big
don't-
Ben is not got one on our list.
Uh-uh.
They don't usually ask for. They don't
Uh-uh.
So they must be advertising?
That's
They're in the wrong
advertising.
they
column?
got
That's
30,000 in advertising.
Yeah, they don't ask us for, she shifts her budget to not ask us
Yeah, that
for
happened.
anything out of commercial yards.
Well, now we're at 116 then.
Okay.
All right.
Good job,
Glad you're
y'all.
on board.
The Big Bend Film Commission needs 40,000 for promotion of the arts. All right.
We give you money.
And Our Lady, I'm sorry, my
Sure.
bossy
No.
mind.
We need some of that.
Our Lady of Peace. What if we gave them half and they had to fundraise the other half?
I agree with that.
That's smart.
Of the
A
arts?
third is generous.
Of the arts?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
So they're at
that's-
70.
A third is generous.
They're at 75 now,
We
and
may go to a third.
Yeah.
before it's
and
done.
so we're at 1085. Let me give you the. Now you need to. Okay, so. Yeah, 29,750 is what we need to cut now.
Oh, jeez.
I know, it's always painful.
So we're gonna have to cut the big ones even though we
I'm
don't.
gonna
have
say
to.
take
Did we
like
cut
3
spirits
off
of
the big
West
ones
yet?
each time.
We haven't.
Not yet.
I think that one should be cut at least in half. I don't know, because what I saw this last year was not impressed.
Which is that?
Spirits
Spirits
of
of the West.
Oh, yeah, I heard it wasn't.
wasn't like last year.
I didn't go, but.
It's the data. so it's
I'd take
not-
them.
It's the weekend after Gem and Mineral, so it's late April, that fourth weekend in April.
Weekend is what they've changed
Yeah.
to now. The banners now
Yeah.
say.
Fourth.
Let's take them to 10 and see what
Okay.
else we can do.
That's what I would think.
Now last year, cowboy poetry got 16. Let's see, art walk got 18,
Total.
for arts,
Okay.
specifically for arts.
So what about the bluegrass? Can't we
The
cut that?
bluegrass got last year, just to see in arts. If I can find it on my freaking column, where is it? Gosh. There it is. They got 12 last year for arts.
Okay, let's give them 12.
The bluegrass?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And art walk got 18 last year for arts.
Okay, let's do 18. What did Viva get last year?
Let me look. Last year for arts, Viva got 13.
Okay, that's what they get this year. And then you said cowboy
Heidi,
poetry
second
got
on this
18.
meeting.
Yeah, is everybody agreeing with Heidi? I'm making these changes because.
What is that?
For Viva, it was 13
Yeah.
instead of 15.
Instead of 15
Mhm.
to this time.
Yeah,
13.
last year what we did, so what, so far on these, we're matching what they got last year.
Right, but there's 13 right now.
Yes, it's 13. I just changed it to 13. So those recent changes are 13 to Viva, 12 to the Bluegrass, 18 to Art Walk. We haven't touched cowboy poetry yet, and they got 16 last year.
Well, they got 16
Mhm.
last year.
It says 20.
That's their
That's
request,
their
but
request.
last year they were awarded
Okay.
in arts.
If we do them 16 based on what we've said, where does that put us right now? And how far off?
We are still 14,000 off, if we award all of those major
And how
events.
many do we-
I think we should take more off of the black and white event, the golf, the Lady of Peace.
That would, yeah, take them to 5, a third, which is what Heather had just, and that knocks another 2,500 off.
Okay,
I love the Bluegrass Festival, but the return on investment for the amount of money they get is not as good as some of these other things.
now we're at 11,700. We
So
need to cut.
what
Do you think we give us they're still growing or because a lot?
I think it's such a niche thing. It's kind of like the guitar thing. It's very,
Yeah, it's one of those things too, where it's a really dedicated audience, but it also is them, if you have the dollars for the bigger name. Yeah,
we really need to get that on that radio thing. They would do a show during Viva to
18,
promote.
thank you.
mhm.
What I was saying, to promote Bluegrass, the Bluegrass Festival.
And we are trying to do that, your idea for that.
Yes,
at the
at the
4th.
4th of July.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Calamity Creek.
Yeah,
They don't play the Bluegrass Festival usually, though.
They've done workshops and stuff,
Yeah.
but not usually on the stage. Okay, so
Where, how much do
we
we?
still have 11,750 that we need to cut
So-
from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
How
10,
much-
11 awards.
We're at 11,000 we need to cut, and so that means we're at what, 80?
We're at 90,500 right now.
So you took the remainder divided.
That's what I was about to say.
Kind of by.
Weight them.
But that that takes away the whole point of weighting them, like with the scoring. That's when you just do it across the board, then you're not factoring in these people that really do have a bigger impact. That's the only reason why I don't like that, 'cause that's, we've taken that approach before, just to get to where we need to be, but. Then you're like treating everybody like they're equal and they're not.
I think we should take more out of Comic-Con for promotional arts.
Comic-Con did good.
It did really well.
They were taking that down there.
But how are they?
The
We've took it to
Bluegrass
60.
only brought in, it didn't impact the states as much as the others did. Take Bluegrass down to, what do we, I can't remember, read my writing. What do we think?
We're at 12 right now.
10.
Now we're at 9,750.
Cowboy poetry only had 5% of impact on states.
What?
Well,
Scoring on here. A lot of people come drive in for their local.
The scoring is pretty harsh this year. Yeah.
The scoring on Cowboy Poetry was off. That's
I
my,
was in a bad mood that day.
my own personal Cowboy Poetry, it was in my top. It was like, Cowboy Poetry was my second highest personal score. I think our Cowboy Poetry scoring was off.
To me, cowboy poetry attracts, but it's more, local and people that are.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Let me finish. let me
Okay.
finish. Local and people that can come in for RVs. Cause I see a lot of RVs.
There are a lot of RVs in their audience, there's no question.
But they fill every room too.
Do they?
I talked to
Okay.
like 3,000 people that's one of the only ones where I completely close the visitor center and go up there.
Okay.
Because it's all out of town people. So when I go to an event and nobody comes up and talks to me, that's how I know they're all local, because they don't want to know anything from me.
Good point, Heather.
Also, like, people come to this region for cowboys in general, like from Austin.
These people also
all
come like
over.
for a week. They don't come just for that. They come like longer. They definitely stay on the side. I did an extra day.
And were you saying that they spend more money on big art and stuff like
They
that
do.
around
The
there?
shops
They
downtown
drop
definitely
money on the.
do better
art.
during cowboy poetry. It's a lot of high dollar people. Most people who go to it are big spenders.
I love that. Tourism.
Which helps the general fund and sales tax. I only said that because Megan's sitting here.
Okay, so the Magical Warehouse last year got 4,000 for promotion of the arts.
What are they at right now?
So right now they're at 10. If we took them to 8, we double their budget for arts.
Make it 6 and they're still ahead.
Though they're really go-getters, John, and they will make that arts money work for us
Actually,
in a way that
I know
most
to
of
the
the-
area too, and you
Yeah.
want it to grow because it was so successful the first year. Took everybody by surprise.
So we're at 7,750 on promotion of the arts.
What? 7 is what we have to cut.
Yeah, 7,007. Now we could take the top ones and take each of them down 1,000 and see where we're at. Like take,
When you say top, you mean?
I mean, like the
Most
top
over
dollars, like
Viva Big Band.
Viva to 12,
Art Wall.
yeah, Spirits to 9,
Spirits.
Art Walk to 17. You want to try that?
Try that and see what we get.
Okay,
And Cowboy Poetry.
yes, 9. Viva to 12.
How much
Cowboy
does the
50.
guy actually cost for that black and white ball? Like the main guy?
Yeah.
Let me
They
pull up
had
that.
it. I thought they had a.
They
just
did.
one guy.
Cause you've had him before, so the
It's
contract.
Ruben Ramos.
Ruben
I want,
Wasn't
it was at
yeah,
least-
they had-
what I can't remember is like each of them got a payment upfront and then a
And they
payment
had
on,
more, I remember,
yeah, the
yeah.
deposit. And so I think they had at least 22,000 for, not just for him though. That
That
was
was for
with
him and
Little
Little
Joe.
Two of that time. So
Yeah.
A lot of
There was
hotels.
3 total. who were
Lot-
able to play that day, but yeah.
But let me see,
There's
let
a
me
lot for
find that.
hotel, I noticed in here for the performers. That's what I'm trying to find. But that's what I remember. Yeah, they paid their motels. Yeah, and that's like.
Find
You
that.
probably have some hotels like that.
I would say, yeah, something like that.
But we talked about spirits too, like you were saying, Joanna, why aren't the big liquor companies giving big dollars to that?
That's
It's
who they
entirely
need to go
dedicated.
after instead of getting the money from the city. That's
It's
the
entirely
vendors that are
dedicated to
going to
them.
be there. That's. who
Now, they
need to take
show-
their money from.
They need to go.
And making them advertise for them that they're be here.
They showed 10,000 under entertainment. So
For-
that's probably Ruben Ramos for the gala. Sorry, Our
Oh.
Lady of Peace. Yeah, easily. My guess would be 12. But
mean,
if we
if
get it
they
for 10,
27,000 on advertising and
Well, yeah,
digital
we'll
only has
definitely-
19.
Yeah, we'll definitely cut that.
Yeah.
They aren't realistic about their digital
That's true,
campaign,
yeah.
but we just need to cut arts first.
yeah.
Get art there.
Okay, we're at 3,750. We're doing
The
phenomenal.
general mineral.
Gem and Mineral is at 2,000.
Them and the guitar at 2,000, 4th of July is at 2,000.
Lady of Peace is at 5. Magic Warehouse at 8. Bluegrass at 10.
Spirits.
Spirits is at 9.
And Art Walk at 12.
Art Walk is at 17 right now.
Oh, 17.
I think you should take our walk down. What would you say they got last year?
Last year,
18.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, last year they got 18.
For the promotion of the arts, for bands and stuff.
For bands, well, the sponsors. They don't, because they don't sell any tickets or anything. Spirits of the West, they have ticket revenue. And sponsors.
We're trying to find $2,000?
3,000.
3,750.
I just don't think you should take anything else from Viva because without the music.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need Viva.
That was
Never
right.
take
But
anything
You know
else
what, Chris,
from there.
let's take another one from,
You and
Art
Chris
Walk.
are both. being-
Another 2 from Art Walk.
from before.
How about
No, we're
take
taking from your own thing.
five
Let
out
the committee like.
1,500
talk
for
about
the
it.
fourth? Because we can negotiate, and we certainly get local players to play for like $300 and get several
Yeah.
bands at that.
Yeah, and Chuck is
Price
thinking that
point.
jazz band group is gonna be up and going by then. So you can
Do we
double
want,
dip there.
do we want to go ahead and take Gem and Mineral to 1,500?
Prefer not to.
I
really
think
she could do a good job
I
over here.
looked at that and
It's her first year at it and
She-
look, she's already taken off with it.
she didn't specify any actual, like, things that she plans to do with the children's events, like, it doesn't mention any plan for that. I think it's just like a, let's paint rocks or something like, you know, like, I don't think it's a big deal. Kids already like rocks
Art Walk.
anyways. They walk around with their parents.
Our walk is at 17 now. And we're at 3250 that we need to cut.
The walk's 1,000 less than we gave them last year.
Yeah.
I remember, one year here, we talked about like how the idea for these events is that they slowly get out on their own a little bit more and start paying for promotion of the arts, like through this money that they're making every year. You know, so at some point, these like legacy events should be paying for more and more of their
Yes.
own things.
That's why I
That's
think
the
we need to
idea.
bring Art Walk
But if
down.
you keep giving them a crutch, they're not going to.
I would agree with that.
I think that we should take it off with the bigger events,
The
except
Art
for
Walk
Viva,
also
maybe.
should be about more about other arts than just music.
Yeah,
The other arts don't really cost you anything, right?
that's true.
Right. Well, those are the locations that are
Right.
putting on the shows. And they're responsible for the big stage, yeah. So what number do you want to do?
15.
Who is this for?
This is for Art Walk. So Art Walk to 15,
Okay.
which is the same. They were at 18 last year and they asked for 20.
It's the Lady of the Peace one that is making the big difference, because
Yeah,
pretty much all
it
the other
is.
ones were the same last year, like the rest of the people being awarded was very much close to the same. Because the budget is exactly the same as last year.
So our Lady of Peace is at 5 right now.
It is. And we got 1250 remaining. To find.
Yeah, maybe they can raise their ticket prices to pay for the band. Like, they need to think about that. How do we get this big name band? We have to sell his tickets.
Their thinking is keep the tickets affordable so more people can come, but what they don't understand is if you get a big band and more people come, then you're not gonna get everybody in there. And you're still cutting your net sales off on it, so.
Also, for something like that, the understanding is that the ticket is not, it's also to be helping the bigger cause.
Which is
Right.
the
Fixing the
restoration of the church,
Yeah.
correct, and that's what I was thinking there.
Like, that's just historic
Yeah.
about that.
That's where they should have gone,
Yeah, they should.
because then they could have just gone straight to the source.
Where are we on Bluegrass right now?
On Bluegrass, they're at 10.
Take Bluegrass down, 1,500. Do you
So-
guys agree with that?
Take them down 1,500, not 2.
Okay.
I saw the look on your.
So that'd be 85.
I think so, because Bluegrass, how long?
It's in its 4th year.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's still growing.
but it wasn't.
It's still like, what is it, 100 tickets a day, 125, something like that.
That's pretty good for a new festival, for Bluegrass.
And it wasn't like they came and left.
Right.
Most of them came and were here.
They stay.
They do stay. the
Yeah.
whole week.
Well, and the folks who travel for bluegrass, they hang out too,
Yes,
like
they
the
do.
cowboy
They
poetry
start coming.
audience, yeah.
I think I still go back to this magical warehouse because they did so great with the budget last year. They can do the same amount of greatness this year.
But it's only their second year, and so we're trying to foster newness and get them up and going, and to your point earlier, take it from those that have been coming in year after year after year, wanting us to finance their.
But the goal is to get off your feet, like, and they
Get up
are
and get off
doing
their
it,
feet, but it's
doing
there's
it
their-
well, you know.
Right.
There's
So
there's
it's only
not
their second
actually any
year.
written goal of getting them off their failing on their own.
No, I know.
It's just like
It's a
an
good idea.
idea, but it's not anything written by our council. It's definitely
Right,
not the
right,
state
right.
law.
Right, that's
You
true.
can keep awarding the same thing every single year to people.
And that's what we've been doing,
Legally.
apparently, yeah.
And given the limited sponsor base locally, that's where if, and, you know, Magical Warehouse, the Comic Con group might be able to get sponsors. You know, their sponsor base might be able to reach out of the region, because that's something where a lot of these events are gonna have difficulty.
They did do a good job of getting sponsors too, though. for their
Yeah.
first year.
And they're at 8 right now?
They went out and got.
They are at 8 right now.
Yeah.
What's the difference that you're?
We need to
1,200.
cut 1250.
Okay.
I say Twilight
for it.
Desert, Gem and Mineral, take 500, Guitar in the Big Bend, take 500, and then take whatever is left from the Black and White Gala.
Wait, what is Guitar in the Big Ben at? When we do that?
2,000.
Right now, it's at 1,500, but it was at 2,000.
Oh, it's it. You dropped it to
I
15.
didn't know we just.
You know, you just.
Well,
dropped
if
it
you
out.
just did,
Just-
your request would do that.
Would do that.
15.
Yeah, drop that. What did they get last year? We got them a total of 9,500 last year.
Last year, they got 3,000 in arts.
Wait, what am I looking at?
How did that go?
It went quite well. And now I can't tell you the proportion of that audience that was local versus out of town. But yeah, it was a packed room for sure. The Alpine concert was at the museum.
Museum.
And the one in Marfa was at, I think, the
Church.
Episcopal Church. And then there was a master class with some loss and a guitar kind of showcase, a luthier showcase at the university.
This is like a new event, right?
This is
Show
the,
promise.
Third year.
this is the third year that it's looking for. Yeah, I think it's great. I would love
So
to
we
encourage it.
too. Especially since they have all those events that could attract, and there's so many people that wanna be singer-songwriters that are coming out here and traveling and doing that. I think it could bring more. Especially if it's at the museum, that's kind of fancy.
It's because he's faculty, so he gets good free.
Actually, it doesn't get a discount.
He didn't?
He doesn't.
They gave us a discount for the wildlife, didn't
No. Mm-mm. We got a sponsor. Cover it. Dixon Water Foundation paid it.
they? 500 is not gonna work.
No. Well, he has multiple, he has longer.
Oh.
Cause we paid 300 like for an evening, but he got longer. More time.
So where
Someone
are
asked
we
me about
now?
a
Well,
wedding thing.
there's the question on guitar in the Big Bend. I would advocate for support, but I helped Nick get the thing started. He's also a friend of mine, so full disclosure.
You said
I also advocate for 2,000.
Last year, he got.
Last year he got
3,000
3,
For
yeah.
promotion and we.
For arts, yeah. And so we're either at 2, we were at 2, Heidi recommended going down 500 there. Evan disagrees, so we need some consensus or a vote if it comes to that.
Okay, if we leave it at 2, we still need to eliminate how much?
I shall tell you. We leave it at 2, we still need to cut $750 total.
That's not bad.
It's not that hard, let's see. So we've got,
$75.
these
They
are we
get
wanted
from the
to-
big one, not from any of the small ones. They're getting too low.
well, so let's see. Art Walk's at 15, Viva's at 12.
How did Art Walk get more than Viva?
They asked for more. Cowboy Poetry is at 15.
Verse that.
Start cutting $250 from 3 events.
Yeah. So we could do that. We could take Bluegrass to 9,750. and that would be 250 out of that.
Take them to 9.
And
Or-
we could take them to 9,250, and we would be within the arts
Oh,
amount.
my math wasn't happening. Good job, Kristen. You guys realize if we're still over 4, we might have to cut more, from this, right?
Yes, and so now,
What's your total?
Zero.
as it shows, we're at 614,000, so we still have $214,000 we need to cut overall from the budget. Now, some places that we could look at,
Get the historical, restoration.
the $50,000 for Coconut Field under sporting events is one that we deferred. Wait for a plan, and I would recommend that, as I mentioned last meeting, that's a good candidate for a fund balance project that the council would direct. So if they came with a plan to council could consider it, and we have that money in the fund balance, and we could just take it out of this year's budget if you like.
Take that off.
I like,
Okay,
We talked about that last week.
Yeah,
I think
so-
we should
There
do
wasn't a
that.
plan in the packet either.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
No.
correct. So
There
now,
were the-
yeah, let me get,
Never mind.
That was out of the sporting, but they're still asking for 40,000 in historical. Do they have a plan for that 40,000?
Well, and that was where we
Yes,
came up
they,
with what they used their money for last year, and which was the wall and stuff, and this is for their plan on this showed, bleachers
yeah,
and
bleachers and the light.
pair of lights, which was also on last year's.
The lights was
They
under
just,
the 50 part, wasn't it?
yeah. that
No,
was a
the,
cut and
the
paste
big
one.
lights are,
Cut
but
and
these are the
paste.
decorative
decorative,
lights.
the
Yeah,
sauces.
which are
Yeah.
super cool and
Right.
historic.
Yeah.
And that's also, I would argue that the exterior, trappings, those decorative elements, that is actually what, that's what the visitors see,
That's what brings
that, and
people all the time.
yeah,
Yes.
because they come by, and when there's not in season, that's like the welcome.
I wish they would apply under historical at some point, once they get it done, is to redo that one area. To be, I don't know what it was, as a museum, that's the room.
So that's as far as I said.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah, you and I
beautiful
talked about
museum.
that like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I would like it to be like a open air, like the fossil exhibit at the park where you could go like all the time.
Yeah.
And nobody has to man it, and it's just like
Right,
behind
exactly.
glass, and
That's
everyone
cool.
can see it anytime, because I send people there all the time.
Yeah, it'd be
And
good
it's
to
just
have.
way-
I give them,
and it's not
Chris's
used,
article he
and it-
wrote and send them on their way. They can look at it.
She also had the idea that, I know that we're off, I'm sorry, but like making replicas of the hardware with the ball, like people would buy that as, maybe make it a
Signboard,
bookend
just
or
have the
something.
last, like, we just came off of a great season, right? Have some signed bats from those players before they take off that you could put in there. And people could purchase if they wanted to, and sign balls just from them, that's free. Okay,
The
Back to work.
softball tournament is asking for $30,000.
To fix the field. That's.
yeah,
That was the Manuel Payne field that, now, those are also things that we could recommend that they take to council for the fund balance. So, we can do that now. That may or may not.
I
get
like
approved.
that idea.
And they're asking for as much as bona fide, our big hitters, Art Walk and,
The idea is though that this has the potential to bring in kids to use tournaments.
Yeah.
on-
right.
But
That's like really
much
big
like
business.
much like those lights, because the lights have a win-win, they need to be improved, but making them dark sky compliant is a big
But
win
shit.
also. So that's where, that being a big benefit project, but also a big dollar amount, that's why it makes sense to me to
But
take
it's
for a
still
special.
Asking for the money, you're gonna spend the money on a city property?
Yeah, see, that's where
On the Manuel
that's
Payne
my
field?
rub right there.
yeah,
That doesn't make sense to me.
that doesn't.
Oops.
Why would we let this school
Thank you for that, Megan.
like?
So would you like then to zero that one out? and They can then
should take it to the
have
city,
that
let the
conversation
city
with
fix
the council?
that.
Yes, please.
Send it to
So,
them.
yeah, I will.
Sorry.
Send it to the city.
Okay, so now we're at 134,650.
Well, can I go back real quick just to the fund? So how does that work? Since this is my first year. So so that money is in that fund because we could, but was it not advertising money?
It is it's hotel tax money
Right,
that, for various reasons,
Yeah.
it was not spent in previous years. Now,
okay.
so
But it
what we're
wasn't the
looking
held
at.
back 50%, that's a separate
Exactly,
portion of that.
yeah, it's not, it wasn't
Oh.
intentionally
Just
unspent.
because I was
Best way
underpaid
to
for 5 years.
The
Okay.
best way to explain it is if you get paid $5,000, but your bills only come up to 4,000, you
Yeah.
have $1,000. and
Okay,
You put it in savings or.
Okay.
Aside. That's how the fund balance. So when the pandemic hit, obviously our fund balance increased because we could hold a lot of the events.
okay,
But our hotel revenue continued to increase because people wanted to
popular
go away. When we had the pipeline controversial as it was, our hotel tax collection skyrocketed that year.
Mm.
And that was more money, than the events had been budgeted for.
okay,
Council does want to look at the fund balance, but I'm taking a conservative approach considering our current situation with hotel tax collections and the inability to collect it because of the military. So we don't wanna like give it all away.
Right.
because we Get back to where we were at. But that's
okay, that's the thing. I would just like to speak up. Instead of so when we took off that $30,000, because it is, I mean, clear, it's a city property, like we talked about that last time. But it would be great to have this done.
Agreed.
And it's hard once it goes back into like as you say, like the list of city things to do.
it doesn't necessarily go back into the city thing. It's a conversation. It's that you want to use hotel funds to do this. It's who's gonna contract.
Who's gonna call?
So like, basically, we would say, okay, city council would like to hire a group, landscapers, and we're gonna use the hot funds to do it.
Yeah,
Not me going back to the council and saying our parks department. is
Right.
going
It's some
to-
Oh,
city money.
so
it's
we're
fund
saying,
balance.
so we are saying that we want to put that forward to the fund balance, or we just took it off.
What I would.
What
su-
did we just do?
What I would say is that we're taking, when we zero it out here.
Yeah.
We're taking it out of consideration for this year's income budget.
Okay,
And
Sending it. to
what we
another
can do is
avenue.
when we send our recommendations to
Yes.
council, I can explicitly say, these things were removed from the budget, but this committee recommends that the council consider them.
okay, perfect.
You know,
And
for.
this would be in that, so
But
we're
it
not
would be one
just,
of those. We're not
Yeah.
saying no way,
Okay, we're
because
putting
I
it in
think
that.
we're all in agreement that
okay,
if intervention to some of our sports infrastructure can bring tournaments.
Yeah.
We want that to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and we would recommend that the council do what's legal. Now, the school district saying bringing a tournament as part of that
Yeah.
makes it legal to spend.
Yeah.
Hotel tax.
Yeah.
So that's where they're a great partner for that.
Totally.
We can,
and so I love that kind of partnership, like even though it's city property, them thinking about it and thinking of a way for the city to be able to kind of expedite that or get it done.
so,
I like
yeah,
that.
so we
They
can
just
make
didn't
it.
know they had the avenue to go to.
Yeah.
Once they find out they have that avenue, they can
Yeah.
go there as
Go
well.
that.
And I think it's actually also really nice that they've come through the official channel.
Yeah.
And now your job is to recommend to the council. So recommending that it be considered separately is still a recommendation.
Okay.
It's just not saying use this year.
Coming out of this pot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I just didn't want it to like fly away.
Yeah.
Okay,
Being diverted to another fund.
okay,
They did that last year with lighting. Yeah, like,
It was,
there was no plan.
right.
There was no, you want money, but there's no, I do highly recommend, just because dark sky compliance comes up next year, that there be money set aside to do the facade, the smaller lighting structure. The larger lighting structure does currently meet compliance as long as it's turned off.
right.
It's not burning, it's
No, the ordinance is written, you have 30 minutes after a game to turn it off. The problem is they're not doing that.
No,
That is the problem.
that's always been.
But like the facade of it and the historical globes, I know that the county had the same kind of conversation. Those really do need to become. So this would be their opportunity to.
But that's the 40,000 that's still sitting in historic, right?
Yeah, we still have
Okay.
that in there.
Okay.
This is just the 54 sporting numbers.
Okay,
Let's see, while we're in sporting events, let's look at last year. Sul Ross Rodeo and Big Bend Ranch Rodeo each got 15 for sporting events last year. They're asking for 20.
Okay, did you take the 3,400 off for the cow dog out of that already?
Yes, that's
Okay,
zeroed out.
Thank you.
And so if you're okay with that, keeping them steady there,
think
I'll
so.
make both of those 15.
I don't know why the ranch rodeo needs as much as the regular rodeo for stock, but.
To admit,
Hmm?
you may.
Oh.
Thank you. I did. Did I kick him out? I admitted him. Okay, good.
Sorry, Rob, mean to kick you out.
I don't think I did, but who knows? So we're at 124,000 now. One number I would look at under advertising is Trappings of Texas. And the museum's 45,000 is more than they were awarded last year, but that covers them for the whole year and promotes multiple events. So I definitely advocate for a healthy amount there. I was just going to Trappings. On Trappings, that is one event. They've never received or spent 45,000 on that one event, and I don't think they need it. So
Last
that,
year we gave him 20, so I say knock
Exactly.
that baby back down.
so at least a 20.
The
And
black
here's
and white
25,000.
advertising. is
Yeah,
a
that was
huge
where I was going.
Huge. That-
Let's talk about this one.
Year before, but it hasn't happened yet, so they're, you know,
I
they
think this is what they
budgeted
did
it,
last
but-
year, though. See, they asked for, no, they only asked for 25 last year. I'm wrong.
So you're taking trappings down to 20 and keeping the museum at 45?
For the moment, until other suggestions are made.
And then black and white, as Heather mentioned.
Right, so that
Oh,
one's
there.
at 27, and so given what you all think of the capacity to actually use the advertising money, what feels right to you?
12,250.
12.2?
12,250.
I'm at 10.
What did you say? 7?
I'm at 10.
We don't even need that much.
Okay,
but
well,
they-
that-
They
I think
had
10 is a nice
10,000
medium.
said for a digital campaign. Again, we've never spent that much on.
No,
on a digital
no,
campaign.
not,
Like,
For-
yeah,
for
well,
Visit Alpine, you don't need, you need $2,000 to promote it.
And they had 85.
and if it's a meta campaign, you're going crazy with
Exactly,
$2,000.
that's what I'm saying,
yeah.
2,000 would be like huge. But what they need to do is put it on the Tejano stations all over, and but radio is not that expensive either.
So that's
Their
it.
total
much is
asking was
radio?
85% of their
You
total
can get a
event.
radio package for like probably around 1,000, I would guess, at a lot of.
Yeah,
those
Art
stations.
Walk spends, I think around that. Spirit spend around 1,000 on Midland radio stations.
It seems like 5 or 7 would be good.
I go get it to them for free, so they can every time.
That's funny.
Okay,
So did
well,
we go to 10 on
we
that?
have it at 10 at the moment. Evan's
Okay,
advocating
for
for less, but we'll see. If you all agree with that, we can do it or wait.
How much
I
did
mean-
Bluegrass get in advertising last year?
Let me see. Bluegrass, they got 10 in advertising. I will say, you noted that marketing plan that
She does
was
good
so
job.
long. She is 3 hours away from an MBA. I learned that this morning over coffee. And so I was thinking, this looks like, you know, she found some
It
like
was her project for.
fat thing, but no, she worked that thing. And so I'm,
She also has to pay more for
25,000.
print ads in specific bluegrass
Okay.
publications.
Yeah, that's
Just like trappings and cowboy poetry, those print ads in very specific niche magazines are more expensive.
mhm.
But that's to hit their obvious target audience.
What did what did Cowboy Poetry get last year in advertising?
Still
They
kind of-
Totally
they
only
do
got
full over.
49.
They got 30 last year.
Well, let's give them 35.
Their billboards are-
But they paid for them with 30 last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we do that to 35, we got 70,000 left, 7650
Total.
total left to cut.
Okay,
in
have
different
we
places.
discussed, where did it go?
Cowboys baseball still at 10, 15, 10, and 15. They've cut nothing.
That's correct.
For the alumni events,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
is that real hard to advertise to people that like went to a school? Like, what are you actually advertising? Did they specify?
They're not on there.
Or
They're at,
not on there
yeah,
yet?
the alumni events are at 4,000 for advertising and 6,000 for sporting events.
6 seems high too.
That's what I was thinking. Please. Can we cut those numbers in half, go 3,000 and 2,000?
We can. If you want. Do you wanna go
Oh,
that far, or you wanna put that different? Well, what is the alumni event? They're, I think it's like a 5K.
3 different events. They
Three
wanna do a
different-
homecoming thing, a spring thing, a
Yeah.
baseball thing, and then some kind of fundraiser.
2 for advertising and 3 for sporting events.
Yeah,
I
I
know
would
they
agree
already
with
have
that.
a roster of the, like, it's alumni, like people, they have their contact information already, right?
They
I
should.
think they're working on it.
So technically you don't have to spend a lot of money in advertising to
Yes, we
contact
do.
alumni. Yeah.
Just imagine.
So at the moment, we've got that at
That's an expensive role that.
2,000 and 3,000.
Going once, going twice.
I have an unusual startle.
Sorry.
I mean, he's being really quiet up there, John. He's beyond commission.
I'm just
Sorry,
terrified y'all are gonna throw me out.
He was
No,
just hoping
you're
nobody
gonna
noticed
be
this
real
is the-
quiet. Make sure. What do you guys think?
Well, let's maybe look at the high numbers. We've got 30 for Theater of the Big Bend. What did they get last year?
We don't ask for anything.
I know.
Right,
They got 20 last year. They're asking for 30.
How much
did
you got?
Occupancy
Museum
Experience get
asking
last
for
year?
45, and they got 25 last year.
Yes. They showed up twice at my spreadsheet.
Who?
I think we maybe have a win here.
Oh, yeah.
Theater
Get
of
a
the Big
double
Bend.
cookie.
And I'm seeing them on line 26 and I'm seeing them on line 28. And that gets us to 65 that we need to cut.
Okay, so which one was that you just did?
Okay, right. I was gonna look at the high numbers. So we have right now Museum of the Big Bend at 45, Lone Cowboy Poetry just cut 35.
Okay, wait, before you go any further, let me. Museum of the Big Ben's at 45, and then last year we awarded them a total of 25.
Last year,
They never use their signage money, so part of that was signage.
yeah, the signage project. Wasn't that
They
under,
requested 25, we gave them 25. This year they're requesting 45, and they didn't use last year's.
the signage is a different project that they didn't ask for again. The signage asked for 20, the 25 they're absolutely using, all of.
Okay,
And they
So-
could easily do more.
well. could we
I
take
think
it
that we need to
30?
get them more because of just being awarded the Smithsonian thing. We need to be able to heavily
Oh, okay.
advertise that.
I agree. I wouldn't cut anything.
1 of 6, and it's about innovation, and we need to spread it out through the whole region, and that is huge.
Okay, good
That's
point.
gonna be cool.
If there's ever a year to give them more money, it's now.
It's also worth noting that they have a lot of deep pocket donors that for the museum.
And John, where they're at right now is a new director who's also a vice president of the university. So his focus is very scattered and all the other staff are new. So accessing those donors, kind of restoring those relationships is a priority now, but I don't know how quickly it's gonna happen. They did
Yeah.
their heritage dinner is something that they've done as a fundraiser in the past, but the way that the staff turnover happened, it was really kind of relearning. So there's a kind of some of that going on. So we'll see how the sponsorship push for trappings
Well,
this
they're
year
already
goes, but
advertising for a new
yeah.
director,
Yeah.
Because the director got permanent job.
exactly.
Vice
He was
president.
assistant vice president. Now that guy the vice president got sick and now he's vice president and can't really direct it. But anyway, hopefully they'll have a full dedicated director soon, but
Give Rebecca whatever she wants.
right. Yeah.
So I would also tell you that the museum had a $750,000 grant coming from the national, it was a federal grant.
Endowment for the arts.
Thank you, the endowment there.
But they're through that matching, aren't they?
No.
Well, but
they
it's
got
not
matching, the grant from the feds was canceled. So they just lost $750,000. So that they applied for, so they gotta go recover that in another way.
Well, we've been awarding them the match for it for the last 3 years.
Well, yeah, well, they're pressing on, they're gonna go work
Of
that,
course, yeah.
but they gotta go get that backfill now. So John's
That
working
was
on
for like the maps.
That, that was for the map display, so
Oh, yeah,
Carlos,
that guy got let go, didn't he? He was off. Now, the guy that's working on the map.
Kyle
Was soft
is
money, so
gone.
he's not there.
Oh, was that part of the grant?
It's my understanding, yeah.
so Carlos, they've made the decision to press on with it, they're gonna go raise the money. Yeah. They got the answer.
Thank you.
Don't take your money.
Okay, finish what you were going from the top.
Right, so right, museums at 45, Lone Star's at 35, but it has been cut. Theater of the Big Bend is then the next highest at 30. Uh. Theater and then,
Didn't you?
gallery nights at 25. One's for trappings and one's for general. They usually do that. They've done 3 most years, but this year it was just the 2. And then film commission at 21. And then spirits at 16.
Walk at 25.
Yeah.
There you go.
Does Guitar Big Bend need 6,000 for advertising?
Which one?
Guitar Big Bend?
And did they specify what?
But he said
advertising
he's
they're
not
using?
gonna do that Texas monthly one next year, cause he didn't think it was that beneficial. It's the Austin newspaper one that's real expensive, that he said he was gonna do it then.
Yeah, that went well, the Chronicle one. But he got 65 last year for advertising. He's asking for 6 this year.
We should look at some of the big ones before we look at
Yeah,
them, right?
yeah, because we haven't touched a lot of the others.
And Chris, don't you try to plug the events in a lot of the co-op activities?
I do, and I will often, but not always, do a dedicated social media ad campaign out of the general budget.
I just want to.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do, I do try to support them. And in fact, yeah, I met with Cindy about bluegrass this morning, and I was recommending, once again, her hustle is impressive, but because I was suggesting well, lately we've had great success with giveaway contests with the package. So I was suggesting a hotel, and she's already ahead of that. She's already got a contest running. So we're gonna work together. I'll edit her a video ad for social, and we'll run those. You know, I'll pay for some and she'll pay for some. So
How much did you use for, Jim Merrill this year?
I did 450.
What she used?
The social, I don't know. Because it wasn't a grant or anything.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I just wondered how much she spent.
But yeah, I'll usually do between 350 and 500 for a social media ad when I do one for the event.
So. Maybe. Why it doesn't even need 5,000?
Well, what about Theater of the Big Bend? They were at 20 last year. Do you want to do 25 and give them an increase?
They're getting hurt by national endowments of the arts too.
Mm,
They're
that's
playing for
true.
them. Why they're doing a big sponsorship drive right now.
Mm.
They're holding a film workshop. Holding a film workshop for high schoolers, they're holding theater camp, and they're holding printmaking camps. They're doing other big fundraisers this year.
I think it's a big growth event too. You know, I think they're trying very hard.
Okay.
You know, Alpine Cowboys baseball, we haven't cut them any.
That is true.
Cut them all.
And last year, they asked for 40, they got 30.
Let's
This
see
year
what
they're
we
asking
awarded
for
last
40
year.
again. That's what without my glasses
Yeah, I'll
on.
find it. They got, last year we did 12 in advertising, 8 historical, and 10 sporting. That's what we did for them last year.
That sounds smart.
12, 8, and 10. Okay.
Where are we at?
Now we're at 46,650.
What type of advertising do the Cowboys use?
Mostly online.
Yeah,
On TV.
Commercials on, I know that's it.
yeah, they do, they do good
Yeah.
bit of TV. They do the distribute the schedules all around. They do some, like the travel guide that gets distributed around. They do an ad in that. They let's see. What the heck else do they do? It's a lot of it. A lot of it's TV.
Theater, Big Ben. They're at 30. Last year we gave them 20.
Yeah, and Heather was just saying they also, like the museum, got hit by those NEH
right.
cancellations.
I think we should go back to the gala
Okay.
and cut them down more because if they're just doing digital media, that's
They
not
don't do
very
5,000.
expensive.
So they're at 10 right now.
I thought you had them already down to 5.
No,
They're at 5 for
I
arts.
voted-
Oh, I wrote down 5.
Oh,
for
yeah?
Promotions. Sorry.
Well,
I-
for
What you
arts,
said, I said I'd do.
It is for promotion, but I think advertising. Oh,
That's what I.
you mean,
sorry.
yeah, right, yeah, sorry.
That's why I don't like to be called
I-
promotion of the arts. I call it
okay,
arts.
so you want to give them 5 in each, 5 for advertising, 5 for arts,
That seems.
okay?
What should we give, warehouse last year in advertising?
Who again?
Which one?
Magic Warehouse.
Last year in advertising. Find them. We gave 2,000 last year for advertising.
So if we give them 7,000, they're still.
Yeah, we're still considerably up.
Are they only going to be doing mostly digital advertising as well to their age group of their market?
Probably mostly, but let's see if they say in their plan.
How much are we short?
39,650.
Okay, doke, sorry.
No, that's always a relevant question.
Can we wipe out the civic center use in the transportation columns? It's just little piddly amounts.
Yeah, Lone Star Cowboy Gathering is asking for 3,000 there. Do they really?
They
use
shuttle
that?
people from the hotels to the university.
do
so
really use it?
Older people, so they
Yeah.
don't have to find parking.
Okay,
That is what they use it for.
okay.
So what they're looking at is, Magical Warehouse. They're looking at $5,000 social media campaign. And then, they're looking to go at regional comic stores to co-op and so they have some budgets there. Then they've got emails,
Emails are free.
which emails are free.
They have a
Uh,
bunch of people that put PR press releases in a huge dollar amount of attached to it. That's earned media. That's free too.
That's
So
true.
anywhere that somebody-
Now,
If they're paying someone $5,000 to write their press release, I will work for any of them. all day long.
that's a good point. I was just gonna say, just in terms of our guidelines,
Yeah.
production would be writing the emails, making the press releases. That is something that can be funded, but only 15% of the advertising award can go to that. The 85 we expect to go to actually buying ads. So given that, these, $8,000 for email and press releases, they wouldn't be able to use all that anyway.
So how much can we?
Well, it depends on how much we award them. They can use 15% of what we award
I
them.
guess they might be paying for what, chip mail or something?
Yeah, MailChimp, and that's like $20 a month.
I know, I don't pay for it. I just bought it
Yeah.
to see everyone.
It depends on how many emails you got on it, but so it's anywhere from 20 to 40 if they get super successful and have, 8,000 emails. or
But still,
something.
emails don't cost a lot.
No, actually sending the email just costs time, which they can pay some for,
They
but
can-
let's
They
see.
can pay Chat GPT to do it
That's true. They should.
for $10 a month now.
But they're at 7.
Now you have to start paying after you use it.
Electrical
too much.
warehouse.
If you want to use it for bigger things.
Art Walk's at 25.
Like, I asked it too many questions, like, you're gonna have to start paying soon.
What did we give Art Walk for advertising last year?
They do.
We
big-
gave them 25.
They do big
last year.
billboards for a lot.
That's true.
They don't do them for spirits, but they do them for a lot.
Wait, did we come down on Comic Con?
We haven't yet. We're at 7. We did come down to 7. but we're,
We go to 5.
can if you want.
How about some of them we haven't cut yet? There's several here we haven't done anything with,
That's true. We've got
instead of
Big-
keep continuing.
working
cutting
from the
same
top,
ones.
Big Bend Film Commission, Viva Big Bend. Uh. let's
Gem
see,
and Mineral Show, we didn't cut their
we
advertising.
haven't cut their advertising. They didn't ask for much, but we haven't cut it. We haven't cut. Theater of the Big Bend, Spirits, Art Walk. And I can't remember, I think we did we cut Bluegrass
Yeah.
advertising? I think they asked for 10 and got 10. Yeah, so they're still at 10.
You know, ours is really digital. I mean, digital, we're gonna do some radio and stuff this year in Odessa. But I think we could go down to, what do you think, Chris? 2,
I thought,
Let's say 25.
25?
Yes.
Say, yeah, do 25, and if we get stuck, you can go to 2, but let's
Okay.
keep, try to get you some money there.
John, well, here's.
Hello?
Can
Hello, hello.
Can John get
He's
funded
being
the
way
same way
too
he
quiet
did
up
last year?
there.
You can take 2 off of that.
I know, he went,
He
Didn't-
just agreed.
What?
He
What?
said,
You can take a little off of that.
Take 2,
Two.
2, take 2,000 off of that.
we could start with that. There is,
Thank you, John.
there is the possibility of getting more from Viva Big Bend.
visit the.
Visit Big Bend. Yeah, Stuart will fund everybody. No, there's a possibility for Brewster County partnering. And making up.
What about
some-
some of the 15 from sporting events for the Cowboys that pays for like baseballs?
Well, we did cut them
Oh, we
to,
did, okay.
10, yeah.
How about the Civic Center use column? Is
That actually would need to be higher. They're about to raise those fees.
no, let's get rid of it.
So I guessing.
$1,500.
Not aware of that.
Here we go.
What about, is this crazy? The rodeo, both of them, last year we did 1,500. And we do that for both of the rodeo events.
15,000.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're at
15,000.
15 for both right now.
Oh, we're already.
Yeah, we
at
did that
15.
pretty
Oh.
early. So how does everyone feel about the Civic Center use column? Susie, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think we should get rid of it.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah, I would agree.
Totally
Okay.
down with that, yeah.
We'll do that. Well,
Delete transportation too then.
is everyone in agreement with that?
Yeah, I would agree with
Yes, so.
that.
Okay.
Where are we at?
We are at 31,250.
We're getting there.
Now we moved, the 50 that
But you
school
haven't
district
taken any of
requested,
the
but we
40.
haven't, but we've left their historical restoration at 40. Now you could fund some of that, but not all. That's a choice, an option.
Okay, go 20.
Well, last year we gave them 30 though.
How did a law?
Wasn't that last year 30?
Let me look.
Last year was 30.
Last year
Yeah,
was
it was
30.
30 last
Do you
year.
wanna
And,
s-
and there's a lot to be done.
There is a
there.
lot. What do you want to,
And every year, if they,
you want to
that-
stay there for?
Yeah.
I'd like
We
to
get
stay
that.
for now and then use it as a last resort only because
Okay.
it really needs to be done.
Yeah.
As long as
John?
they do it.
What were you saying, John? Are you okay with that, with 30?
If we leave it alone, it only gets more expensive. Can they not go to the city council and say, please dig up some money out of the fund for us? This is an important facility.
Yes.
Exactly.
There's only
And
gonna
that's
be
what
so
I'm
many
saying.
times. One of the things is that they've done it every year. And so that's also a question of how does this committee want to strategically prioritize the fund? And of course, you're also relying on people to request funds, but
The problem
Yeah.
with Coconut Field that I see or looked at is that it kind of falls through the cracks because even though it was given to the Cowboys, it was then the school district supposed to keep it up, but Sol Ross uses it. And the city, takes advantage of the museum. So it's in a sort of a catch-all situation where nobody wants to do it, but everybody sees it needs to be done. And the money always it's given to them, but it never goes where it's supposed to go. And I don't know that that's
the fault of Coconut Field. I think that's the fault of who gets their hands on the money before it gets to Coconut Field. And I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Good point.
So at some point, if we put our foot down and that's why I asked last year on this, I said, I want to see if we're giving them money to work on that or restoration or whatever, when you put your application in again next year, I want to see photos that you used that for last year.
And
That we
they
gave you.
And this year
They
they
did,
do
they
it,
did.
yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
But this is the first year they've done that too.
Well, this is the first year it's gotten to you.
Yeah.
That's one thing that, because when I submit the request for reimbursement, that was there. It just didn't get to you because we didn't get the report to the committee with photos, which was your request and a very wise one, but we
Yes.
didn't have that in place before. So there were photos, you just weren't getting them.
Well, again, I'll go back to what I was saying is if you look at their request, they literally, and most of it, cut and pasted last year's onto this year's request. So my point being, all of these things need to be done, dark skies and all that stuff, but everybody wants to point the finger at somebody else to do it, and nobody wants to do it.
Fund a project at a time. My focus obviously is gonna be dark skies, because that is coming up where people will start having to.
And it will benefit both.
Yeah, say, so you wanna, we're going to fund the light. You're gonna correct all of
Needs to be
the-
done.
Whatever, what did y'all call the globe things, ones on the building?
Yeah, decorative lights, yeah, yeah.
And we're gonna fund that this year, and that way maybe it's also not overwhelming to the school district with, okay, now we have 15 projects. We have the money, we know we can get this one done. I don't
We
think
as in
they're
the
not-
city is.
Well, or
us?
out of this
For us.
fund,
But
yeah.
if you, school district.
Okay, all right.
I mean-
Sorry. Yes, sir.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Madam Chair,
He's hiding behind the chair.
my observation is the maintenance of Coconut Field is a complex relationship.
My
with the
point.
School district, with the university, between the city. I think it'd be of value to the committee to go ask, how does all that stuff happen? Between those and the Cowboys? Because I know Saul Ross is the one who manages the lease. Okay, and they do a lot of maintenance out there. I'd just say, hey, get a workshop. Can you all explain to us how it all works? I think then you'll make a much better informed decision about how to play that. Because
Well
I don't
said.
get it, and I'm involved with all the entities. I've not read the lease, but I know Jim Goodman has shared with me, and Carlos has shared with me, and the Cowboys. It's an interesting relationship. The thing I put forward is, the school district owns it. Okay? But they almost spend almost no money on it. Okay?
And they
Someone
sit
else-
on a $20 million asset.
Yeah, and someone else managed it. The recommendation I made to Michelle not too long ago is why don't you create a not-for-profit for that? And let a separate board
Yes.
go manage it. Someone's gotta take that initiative. Maybe we can be the catalyst to help get that ball rolling, so.
I think with some of these projects too, the school is not gonna do well fundraising for it. The Cowboys proved a couple years ago when their youth got increased, that they can raise some money. So like if you fund the lights, but then maybe like there's a fundraiser for another one of those projects, like the Cowboys have the following with some financial backing to fund some of these things, but they look at it like they pay their $10,000 for the year, so they're done.
Yeah, they're done.
And the people sitting in those
And they
bleachers,
think
are
they
paying.
have a good incentive to have better bleachers to sit in.
The people sitting in the bleachers would probably pay a little more for a ticket.
And I'm just looking at.
Especially if they get splinters.
Exactly.
I think that, I mean, the poor school district, I mean, it's kind of an albatross for them to own
Yeah.
this.
Well, it's an older property
they-
and
like-
it's expensive to keep up and they
A
gotta
school
take care of the
district,
kids. in
a
the school,
poor
you know?
rural school district
I
is
get
in
that.
no position to be able to maintain.
So I'd
They give
suggest
it to somebody else.
Yeah.
addressing the issue.
That'd be awesome.
I know when Jim Goodman left and went back to Florida to retire, he actually volunteered to pull a game plan together for Coconut, to pull all the entities together.
Yeah.
See, that's how I know because Billy and Jim work together. So I understand exactly what's going on behind the scenes because his frustration was like up to here as well.
So I'm happy to help facilitate if that will help you all, and maybe the way what you say is, to zero it right now. You all gotta come back with an integrated plan, all of you players, Saw Ross Cowboys, school district, et cetera. and bring it back to the city.
Well,
with
now
the
that makes
recommendation.
sense.
So you're saying to zero the Cowboys contribution too that we usually give every year?
I don't know what that money goes towards, I presume.
They give it directly to the school, that's.
Well,
their-
but it's part
And
of
then it
their
doesn't get back to the field.
agreement to play, right?
Right,
So they have that obligation
yes.
in order to have the season, so that
that's-
makes sense to go ahead and
Yeah,
help
fund
them
it.
do
Yeah,
that.
I fund that.
But that's the one that went from 5 to 10 a couple years ago. They had.
I'm gonna see if they've itemized
I think they.
these
looked at
different
dynamics,
projects in their
didn't they?
budget.
It seems like they did.
If you're out the floor.
Okay,
That's right. Voice the issue.
they do have one thing that could consider is giving them 10,000 to work the lamps, because that is the line item in their budget to fix the lamps. And yeah, sure, and we could zero everything else out and then
And
pursue, and that way they're,
To come back with a plan
they
that we
don't
can
have
do.
nothing, and the city gets
I like
those
that.
lamps refitted.
From a code enforcement perspective, I'd rather encourage people to provide a little funding.
From a parent safety perspective, I want the bleachers fixed.
Now, the bleachers are 40,000.
The kid fell through them.
They are getting pretty.
The actual bleachers, the nice seats.
The bleachers, yeah.
But I would
Not
also
the-
argue that the bleachers are are the kind of project that would be easy to fundraise. You know, just to say, hey, give to the public, you know. But anyway, what do you all think about giving them 10 of the 40 for the lights? And we go from there.
That's only $2,000, something like that.
So what did y'all just say about the Cowboys items? Are those
The
the same?
Cowboy, well.
Or are we
the
gonna like
Cowboys
really
have-
force it and be like, y'all sit in a room?
The
No,
Cowboys,
it's
we
not-
took to 8 for that, but they have a part of their agreement to
Uh-huh.
use the field is to kick in
Right.
towards maintenance. And
Right.
so my argument would be,
Leave it.
make it easier for them to play.
And this is for field restorations we're taking it
It's-
up, not the Cowboys themselves.
Correct. This is
Oh,
the
the ISD
ISD's
line.
request.
Correct. that's
And
what
so
I wanted to
that
make sure.
brings us to $1,250.
I feel like Heidi was gonna say something.
Heidi, were you gonna say something?
I was gonna take us off topic and try to be funny and it's.
No owls, right?
No owls.
Okay, so we have 1,250 we need to cut. 1,000.
Did we check any off of Mr. John's that he was so nice?
We did, we took 2,000
Okay,
down for
thank you,
him.
John, again for that. We appreciate it.
Yahoo!
Is there anybody else we haven't taken?
Can we take it out of green jackpot still at 5,000?
We could, well,
It
you
hasn't
could
touched at
take
all.
1,250 out of the 45,000 for the museum and they'd still have more
Yeah.
than twice what they had before.
Good point.
Let's talk about how much they're gonna be hurting.
We did, but they're still getting more than twice what they have
I
before.
know, but the rodeo raises money, the rodeo team, you have, just like how you have the Cowboys in multiple places, we're funding the X's, which funds the rodeo, we're funding Big Bend Ranch Rodeo, which funds the rodeo, we're funding the jackpots that fund the rodeo.
So we would be cutting, did we cut the jackpots, the
No,
5
we haven't cut
requests?
them at all.
Oh, okay, so do you want to do then some of that 1,250 or all of it from that?
I'm gonna go, I'm just,
Who else did we not, how about the X's annual reunion? Have we taken anything off of that?
We have not.
Let's split it between them.
Okay,
Where's the
so
excess
that's gonna
It's at
be,
4,000, they're each paying for stock, so that they can hold the ropings.
And
so
this
that
is
they
their
can
first
make money for the
year
rodeo team.
and they're probably not expecting a whole lot.
That's-
For the
Six.
X's, no, it's been going on for like 60-some years.
Well, I mean, it's first year they've
Yeah,
requested.
that's
First year they've asked for money, yes.
so that would be 3,375 for the X's. And that was 625, okay.
Cheerleader there.
4,375. Jackpots. And that brings us to 400,000.
So let me
Mhm.
circle back.
Yes.
Since I kind of started this on the coconut restorations. When you give this back to them, it's going to be with the requirements.
We're going to fund the light portion of your,
And then with
and
Rick's recommendation.
we're gonna recommend.
And I would help with that,
Yeah,
as long as I know about it.
It's the board's recommendations
Mhm.
back
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
to, it's a group effort, so the vote would be that you're approving the budget with the expectation that the school district is going to cover the light.
Okay.
And the additional recommendation for council to consider the improvements to manual paint, the improvements.
So we could just develop a 501c3, a nonprofit to support.
The Cowboys are, the stuff that Kirsten runs already is a nonprofit.
I know, but we don't want the money to go to them. We're trying to set a separate that would go, we know where it's gonna go to
I mean,
Coconut. And
this-
even your museum idea, we could
I mean,
incorporate all of
the
that.
school board would have to vote to
Oh, yeah.
like release that, their ownership of that, for there to be a nonprofit that runs that.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
They could keep the ownership and
They
still let
get
a
the ownership,
nonprofit
but
run it.
they get-
Yeah, they could do that, like yeah, they could do that.
Okay.
Just be
But they,
a managing foundation. That's what you basically want to create. You want to create the Cowboys Foundation. And that they would,
Friends of the Cowboys Foundation or
Whatever.
something. like
Yeah.
that.
Coconut.
Friends of Coconut.
There you go, Friends of
You got all
Coconut,
players,
you're right.
Cowboys, it's locals.
but it would have to have staff, right? You have to have
Well,
a
you
staff
just-
member
They
probably.
have to first get
Let's have
together.
that.
and figure out What you're gonna do to raise.
A half or a half-time, a part-time to manage,
Yeah.
the financial side.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, that would be the big part, is the money.
Okay, so the notes that I have
Usually
right
don't
now,
have time
and this
to do that.
this would inform basically your motion to make the formal recommendation to council. Which is the numbers in the spreadsheet we just discussed. And right now I have also that the committee is recommending that the $50,000 request for Coconut Field lights be referred to council for consideration of the fund balance, and also the Manuel Payne Field restorations for tournaments the same way. That the $10,000 of historical for Coconut Field restoration under that you're awarding is specifically for that decorative lighting, and recommending that the council and the school district and other interested parties begin a process of consolidation, clarification of the
Use of the.
the management plan,
Yeah.
management restoration plan for
Coconut Hill.
the field. Does that sound right?
Friends of Coconut.
So you don't have, so then that would eliminate 3 people asking us for money for the same thing.
Exactly. And then it never go in there. It always goes somewhere else.
Okay, the wording I have right now is that the Coconut, ongoing Coconut Field maintenance and restoration to work with Rick's process to develop a plan among the existing partners. Does that work for you guys?
Pretty. Sounds right.
Okay.
Hear that?
Heard it.
Okay. Just checking.
Rick always like more on his plate.
I
Big
do
plate.
think that National Register
Yep.
has gone through. I mean, I don't know that it's been approved, but I think it's like.
I know they're
submitted. Is that
working
right?
on it, but it's part of it.
It's been submitted, but we haven't had any, I haven't had the next step, like.
Yeah. But Posto finished with all of its stuff and submitted everything. Okay, so that's good. So that'll be something good to work with.
You should fix stuff before that goes through. It's gonna cost you more once it does.
Well, they'll be able to go for grants.
Always grants, right?
All those grants that don't exist anymore. Yeah.
Strings attached. I
They
don't like
stay. No cost
So
more to
at,
fix it like
at
that.
this stage then,
Yeah.
we need a motion to formalize this set of recommendations. to council.
formalize.
You do need a second?
I'll
I
second.
just wondered if you needed more specific verbiage.
Yeah. Make a.
Yeah, Robert might not approve, but
As proposed.
yes. So is there any further discussion from anyone on any of these questions?
I do have a question. Is Coconut Field a 501c3?
Not as such, it's owned by the school district.
Cowboys are, but.
Dang.
That's what.
Sounds like it could use a little work there.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the
Okay.
points.
Any other discussion?
You
Then
know, at Coconut Field, if they were a 501c3, then every one of us that is a 501c3 could donate money to them
There you
and
go.
not be hindered by the tax. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that very much will be on the table when Rick calls these partners together.
Bull beans, Rick, go for it.
What did I say?
Okay, so is there any further discussion? Yes,
Or if you're gonna make the vote or not,
we're about to vote.
I'll let you vote then.
Okay, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. The recommendation is finalized and we will send it to council. Would anyone like to say anything before we
So one, thank you all for what you did. You have a really hard job. And I think what will be helpful for council is I think about the macro level. What was the request that were, how much did everyone ask for? Total.
the total 680?
1,000.
Yeah.
Six hundred eighty thousand.
Yes,
And how much did you have available?
400.
So you had 400,000. So do the math, help everyone, particularly when it comes to council. We request for 680,000, how to get it down to 400 some odd thousand, that's a 35, 40% reduction in terms of what was asked for. That will put into context for council and everyone else when they look and say, oh crap, I submitted this, here's what I got. Oh, I didn't do too bad relative to what's going on. I think the other thing is the process you all went through in terms of ranking, stacking. I'll explain that to council, particularly since we have 2 new council members. And helping everyone understand the level of detail you all go through is really helpful because rational people will get, you know, what y'all have to go through. So
I think it's also important that the 400,000 is over half of our budget.
Yep.
For
Yeah,
the
that's the other part.
department.
where have we been in the past, where are we at right now, where the
But
budget's
that's,
stand?
that's over half of what we take in, is
Yep.
awarded away.
Yes. So putting that story together, I think a couple slides kind of open up.
Okay.
That way, you all have talking points you're gonna get asked. Council will get asked when we come forward. I think that will help dramatically.
Okay.
So this will be presented, which council,
At,
the next meeting, right? Or?
No, no,
we have-
6, so it'll be,
Thank you.
Sooner than we've ever been done.
Yeah.
Good job, baby.
My goal was to move everything up.
She did good.
No, she's gonna try to hire all of them.
Okay, well, would any members of the committee like to say anything at all before we adjourn?
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
To say that I got everything, like I really wanted to learn about this process and understand, and I feel like I've learned so much about the organizations, about.
Yeah. It's either that or you're totally confused.
Well, I'm still totally confused, but I have learned a whole lot, and I thank you for your leadership.
Oh,
It ain't easy.
No, I wouldn't want.
I do have a question for you, Chris.
uh-huh.
Last year we had X budgeted, I can't remember the number. And you would have had time to figure out what the actual income from hotel tax was. Does that make sense? So if we budgeted 400,000 and you really took in 480,000, wouldn't that impact on the budget? Especially for the council?
A lot of the time, those amounts are really determined through the budgeting process. So our grant amount is determined essentially by the city manager based on her projections of how much total she think is going to come in and what are the non-grant obligations for the total collections. And so for a lot of those moving targets, the decision has been made to keep that grant budget at 400,000. And so regardless kind of the exact amount of total collection. So it's not a percentage of collections. This is what's budgeted as part of that process. And so, yes, if we were consistently, if we started to trend up, because we're really flat between last fiscal year and 2 fiscal years ago and last fiscal year, the ones we were up by $1,400 out of 700,000, so it was pretty much the same. And so if we started really strongly to trend up, then at that point, Megan might say, okay, we'll start to readjust.
Yeah, and the news about tourism in America is not real friendly.
Mhm.
It may be better for us. You know what I'm saying? Just like it was during COVID, but
Might be slightly less bad for us.
yeah, yeah.
So John, the other side of the budget is the visitor center, it's the salaries, it's the reoccurring fees. I don't wanna yell.
Yeah, the visitor center salaries, et cetera, are for the visitor center. Yeah, I said that visitor center and the salaries, reoccurring fees. There's lots of other pieces that
We pay our.
we pay
fee
out.
into
Yeah.
General
Yeah.
funds to fund finance and the city manager and all the things that support us. Well, but all the administrative staff, we pay a fee for that, we pay for the visitor center, we pay. So like if everything goes to crap, Chris and I need paid first, right? And then after that, it can go to other things.
Okay, any other comments from anyone?
No,
If
great job.
not, we're
Appreciate you guys.
adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Chris, could you give me a call? I have a
Yeah.
very stupid question.
John,
for you.
I'm so sorry I didn't get you the other day.
That's all right, my fault as well. So, but if you can give me a call even right after the meeting, it's not a long conversation.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll call you in just a minute.
thanks, Gio.